The smartest thing for the Browns to do for that wide receiver room is to cut and or trade Jerry Jeudy, and they need to do.
Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, number 22 in targets across the entire NFL, paid like a number one, treated like a number one, and producing like a scarecrow stuffed with dropped footballs and broken promises. This is the story of how the Cleveland Browns front office, and by front office I mean the decision makers who looked at Jerry Jeudy's film, looked at Jerry Jeudy's contract, looked at Jerry Jeudy's track record, and said, yes, this is our guy. How those people took a quarterback situation that was already on life support and handed the defibrillator paddles to the one man in the building most likely to drop them. My name is not important. What is important is that by the 12-minute mark of this video, every single person watching is going to understand exactly why Jerry Jeudy is not just a bad wide receiver, he is an active sabotage agent against every quarterback who has ever had the misfortune of lining up behind center in Cleveland. And I am going to prove it with film. I am going to prove it with numbers, and I am going to prove it in a way that makes it impossible for the Cleveland Browns front office to look in the mirror and pretend they did not see this coming. Welcome to Hot News. Let's get into it.
Hands are completely awful. They're anemic. He's not washed. He's beyond that. He just does not have the focus and capability to catch footballs.
Let me set the table before we go any further, because I want you to understand the full scope of what we are dealing with here. Jerry Jeudy was targeted 105 times in the most recent season we are examining. 105 targets. That ranks him number 22 in the entire NFL among qualified receivers, 22nd in targets. That is a top 25 workload. That is a number one receiver workload. That is the kind of target share that franchises pay premium money for, that coordinators build entire game plans around, and that quarterbacks lean on when the game is on the line. Now here is the payoff stat, the number I need you to hold on to for the entire length of this video. Jerry Jeudy caught 47.2% of those targets. 47.2% out of 81 qualified receivers in the NFL. That catch rate ranked him 217th overall according to PFF's league-wide efficiency metrics. 217th. Not 27th, not 117th, 217th. I want you to sit with that. There are not 217 wide receivers in the NFL. That number accounts for the methodology of how efficiency rankings are calculated across all pass catchers, and it places Jerry Jeudy in a category so far below replacement level that the word replacement does not even apply. This is not a slump. This is not a bad stretch. This is a multi-year pattern of being among the worst assets at the position in professional football, and the Cleveland Browns front office kept running him out there, week after week, target after target, 47.2%.
Jerry Jeudy has explosively, and I'm gonna show you through the stats. I have the stats to prove it. He has explosively terrible hands.
Now before we get to the deep numbers, and we are going to get there, I promise you, because the deep numbers are genuinely historic, let me walk you through what this looks like on film. Because stats without film are just math homework, and math homework does not make you feel the full weight of what is happening to the Cleveland Browns offense every single time Jerry Jeudy runs a route. Picture this scenario. Fourth quarter. Third down. Joe Flacco, a man who went on to prove he can absolutely still operate at a high level in this league. Joe Flacco finds Jerry Jeudy on a sit-down route. The ball is a little low, sure, we are going to acknowledge that. But Jerry Jeudy goes down to make the play. And what happens next is, and I am not being hyperbolic here, one of the most athletically impressive failures in recent NFL memory, because Jerry Jeudy does not just drop the ball. Jerry Jeudy pops the ball straight up into the air, perfectly, I mean with the kind of precision a volleyball setter would envy, and delivers it directly to the opposing defender for an interception. Let me be completely clear about what that means. A slightly low pass that should have been an incompletion at worst became a gift-wrapped interception because the asset, the man this offense is supposed to flow through, has a gift for turning negative plays into catastrophic ones. It is like hiring a valet to park your car, watching him miss the parking spot, and then watching him somehow also back it into a fire hydrant on the way out. The damage was not in the initial mistake, the damage was in the creative way, the mistake was made worse. Now that is not even the play that made film analysts sit up and truly question what is happening with Jerry Jeudy. The play that crosses the line from bad to genuinely baffling is the one where Dillon Gabriel, who is not Peyton Manning, we are not pretending otherwise, throws a ball right at Jerry Jeudy's chest on a third down conversion, right at his chest, nobody within 5 yards of him. This is a possession catch. This is hold A on the controller football. And Jerry Jeudy jumps. He jumps for a ball he does not need to jump for and puts the ball on the ground. Third down, gone. That is not a difficult catch made harder by circumstances. That is an easy catch made impossible by the receiver. If you are finding this breakdown valuable, please subscribe to Hot News right now and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we drop one of these.
So in 24, Jeudy led the entire NFL in drop passes with 13 drops and was the top 20 in drop percentage rate at 9%. In 25, depending on who you ask.
Anemic. That is the word used. Not declining, not inconsistent. Anemic. And that is the most medically accurate description of what Jerry Jeudy's hands do to a passing offense. They drain the blood out of it, slowly, play by play, target by target, until the whole thing is pale and lifeless on the sideline. Now let us talk about the pattern, because this is where the story stops being about one bad play and starts being about institutional negligence by the Cleveland Browns front office. What is fascinating, and by fascinating I mean absolutely infuriating if you are a Browns fan or a quarterback who has ever played for this team, is that the film evidence is not isolated to a single game or a single season. This is a multi-year, multi-quarterback, multi-coaching staff indictment of a player who has been kept on the field long past the point where the evidence demanded a different decision. In 2024, Jerry Jeudy led the entire NFL in drop passes with 13 drops. 13. He was also top 20 in drop percentage at 9%, so the league's most prolific dropper of footballs. And the Browns front office looked at that and said, you know what, let us see what happens in 2025. And in 2025, depending on which source you consult, Jeudy finished with either the most or the second most drops in the entire league, 10 drops per Football Reference, tied for the NFL lead, and 9 drops per another major tracking outlet. So in back-to-back seasons, the man who is supposed to be the #1 receiving option for this franchise finished either first or second in the entire NFL in dropped passes. Every single person watching this needs to understand what that means in business terms. You have an asset, and by asset I mean a commodity that the franchise is paying top receiver money to deploy, and that asset is delivering a product that is measurably, historically, statistically the worst in the industry 2 years running. In any other business, that asset gets restructured, traded, or released. You do not keep running the broken machine and wondering why the output is garbage. But the Cleveland Browns front office kept running the broken machine.
Made of, no, it's not just excuse making. I'm showing you football, and I'm showing you the wide receiver core wasn't just bad. It was generationally terrible.
Explosively terrible hands. That is the distinction that matters here. And I want to expand on it because it is the difference between a receiver who is struggling and a receiver who is actively making things worse. There is a category of wide receiver who drops balls. It happens. Routes get contested, timing is off, the ball placement is imperfect. Those drops are frustrating, but they are part of the game. Then there is a second category, and this is the category that Jerry Jeudy occupies, where the receiver does not just fail to complete the catch, he converts what should be a neutral or negative play into a positive play for the defense. The volleyball interception, the chest-high ball that becomes a fumble, the scramble drill throw where he gets a hand on it and somehow still cannot bring it in. Think about what that does to a quarterback's psyche. Think about what that does to a play caller's ability to design an offense. You cannot scheme around a receiver who turns incompletions into turnovers. You cannot build a 2-minute drill around a man whose hands are, in the words of the film analysis, beyond washed. You cannot ask a young quarterback, or any quarterback, to trust a route when history tells you that trusting that route might cost you the game. And this is where the story becomes about more than Jerry Jeudy. This is where the story becomes about the Cleveland Browns front office and their complicity in this situation. Because here is what the targeted passer rating data tells us. When quarterbacks threw to Jerry Jeudy, they generated a passer rating of 44.2. 44.2. That ranked 80 out of 81 qualified receivers in the entire NFL. The second worst passer rating generated when targeting any wide receiver in professional football. Both Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, the quarterbacks who had to operate behind this offense, posted the worst and second worst QBR numbers respectively. And what did they have in common? They were both throwing to Jerry Jeudy as their primary receiving option. Now I want you to think about that for a second. I want you to really sit with the math here. 44.2 passer rating when targeting your number one receiver. That is not a quarterback problem. That is not a scheme problem. That is a receiver problem. And the fact that the Cleveland Browns front office allowed this situation to persist, allowed their quarterbacks to be evaluated through the lens of a receiver generating the second worst target efficiency in the entire league, is a level of organizational malpractice that would get a front office executive fired in any competently run operation. It is like a restaurant owner who insists on keeping the one-line cook who burns every single dish and then wonders why the head chef's reviews are terrible. The reviews are not about the chef. The reviews are about the cook who is torching the food before it ever gets to the table. While the quarterbacks on this roster were being evaluated, judged, and in some cases dismissed based on their performance, the front office was busy doing what it does best, keeping a receiver on the field whose 47.2% catch rate was actively poisoning every completion percentage, every passer rating, and every offensive efficiency number attached to those quarterbacks' names.
The smartest thing for the Browns to do for that wide receiver room is to cut and or trade Jerry Jeudy, and they need to do
13 drops in 2024, leading the entire NFL, and the Browns front office looked at that number and decided to run it back. Let me give you the full historical picture now, because this is where it stops being a bad season and becomes a career-long pattern that the Cleveland Browns front office either did not research or chose to ignore. Jerry Jeudy's catch rate has ranked in the bottom tier of the NFL every single year of his career. In 2020, he ranked 200th in catch rate at 44%. In 2021, 91st at 67%. In 2022, 101st, also at 67%. In 2023, 142nd at 62.1%. His 2024 season, the one people called a breakout, ranked 131st at 63.6%. And in 2025, 47.2%, ranking 217th overall. That is not a hyperbole. That is not me hyping this up. That is simply the math. Every single season of Jerry Jeudy's professional career, he has ranked in the bottom half, and in most seasons the bottom quartile, of NFL receivers in catch rate. The 2024 season that generated excitement? Still 131st. The supposed breakout? Still bottom tier. The drop rate in 2025 sat at 9.4%, placing him at the 80th percentile of worst drop rates in the league. Worst. The absolute worst drop rate in the NFL, paired with the second worst passer rating generated when targeting him. Let me be completely clear about what this means for the Cleveland Browns as an organization. You cannot evaluate your quarterbacks fairly when your primary receiver is statistically the most difficult target to throw to in professional football. You cannot develop a young passer or retain a veteran one in an environment where completing passes to your number one option actively makes your numbers look worse than throwing it out of bounds. The 47.2% catch rate is not just Jerry Jeudy's problem. It is the Browns' problem. It is the quarterback's problem. It is an organizational problem that the Cleveland Browns front office created and sustained through inaction. And here is the worst of both worlds business argument. You are paying this asset like a top receiver. You are giving this asset top 25 target volume. And in return, you are getting the second worst passer rating in the NFL when the ball goes his direction, the worst or second worst drop totals in the league in back-to-back seasons, and a 47.2% catch rate that ranks 217th. You are spending premium resources on a commodity that is actively depreciating the value of every other asset around it. That is not just a bad investment. That is a self-inflicted wound that the front office chose not to close.
Hands are completely awful. They're anemic. He's not washed. He's beyond that. He just does not have the focus and capability to catch footballs at
generationally terrible. That is the verdict from the film. And what is remarkable, and by remarkable I mean genuinely staggering, is that the film is not even the most damning part of the case. The most damning part is the multi-year statistical trail that stretches back to the beginning of Jerry Jeudy's career and has never, not once, shown a sustained upward trend in the categories that matter most for a receiving asset. So here is my verdict, and here is my prediction, and I want every single person watching this to hold me accountable to it. The Cleveland Browns front office has a choice. They can continue to deploy Jerry Jeudy as a top target option for their quarterbacks, in which case I am predicting, not guessing, predicting, that every quarterback on this roster will continue to post artificially suppressed efficiency numbers that have nothing to do with their actual ability. The passer rating generated when targeting Jerry Jeudy is 44.2. 44.2. That number will not improve unless the hands improve, and 5+ years of film and data say the hands are not improving. The alternative, the one that film analysis has been screaming from the rooftops, is to cut or trade Jerry Jeudy and redirect those targets to receivers who can actually catch footballs. Because here is what the data also tells you. The quarterbacks on this roster are being evaluated in the harshest possible conditions. A bottom-tier offensive line, a receiver core that the film calls generationally terrible, and a number 1 option whose catch rate ranks 217th in the league. If you want to know whether your quarterback can play, you have to remove the variable that is making the entire operation look broken. Think about Joe Flacco, the same Joe Flacco who was throwing to Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland. The same Joe Flacco who got released and went to throw to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Suddenly that offense looks completely different. Suddenly the quarterback looks competent. The receivers are the variable. The hands are the variable. And the Cleveland Browns front office has had the data to understand this variable for multiple seasons and chosen, repeatedly, to look the other way. It is like a company that keeps blaming its sales team for poor numbers while refusing to acknowledge that the product they are selling is broken. The salespeople are not the problem. The product is the problem. And the executives who keep approving the broken product are the ones who owe the explanation. The smartest thing, and by smartest I mean the only defensible business decision the Cleveland Browns front office can make right now, is to move Jerry Jeudy, trade him, cut him, do whatever the cap situation allows, but get him off the field. Get him away from your quarterback's completion percentages. Get him away from the 47.2% catch rate that is poisoning every offensive efficiency number this franchise produces, because until that happens, you cannot fairly evaluate anything that happens on that offense. And the quarterbacks on this roster deserve to be evaluated fairly. That is not hyperbole. That is not me being dramatic. That is the math. 217th, 44.2 passer rating, back-to-back seasons leading the NFL in drops. The receipts are there. The film is there. The only question is whether the Cleveland Browns front office is willing to look at them.
Jerry Jeudy has explosively, and I'm gonna show you through the stats. I have the stats to prove it. He has explosively terrible hands.
Drop your honest take in the comments right now. Forced choice, yes or no? Is the Cleveland Browns front office deliberately ignoring the Jerry Jeudy problem? Or are they genuinely this blind to the data? Yes or no? I want to see it down below. Because the comment section on this video is about to tell us everything we need to know about how Browns fans actually feel about what this front office has been doing to their quarterbacks. If you are not subscribed to Hot News yet, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications, because we are not done with the Cleveland Browns, we are not done with this receiver room, and the next breakdown is going to be even more detailed than this one. You do not want to miss it, and click the video on your screen right now, because that one picks up exactly where this one leaves off. This is Hot News. We'll see you in the next one.
So, in 24, Jeudy led the entire NFL in drop passes with 13 drops and was the top 20 in drop percentage rate at 9%. In 25, depending on who you ask, made of, no, it's not just excuse making. I'm showing you football, and I'm showing you the wide receiver core wasn't just bad. It was generationally terrible.